Hello, good morning. I hope that you're all well on this very special weekend. In the United Kingdom, we have had a 4-day national holiday to celebrate our Queen's Platinum Jubilee. 70 years of service to her country. She's just amazing. She really, really is. Last night we had a concert outside Buckingham Palace, and it opened with a comedy sketch involving the Queen and Paddington Bear. If you're not in the UK, or if you are in the UK and you didn't watch it, go to YouTube and turn up. There will be a clip of it. It was absolutely amazing. For years, we've all wondered what the Queen kept in her handbag. Well, it turns out to be a marmalade sandwich. I didn't think so, really, but it was last night in this comedy sketch. Gosh, the Queen, she's such a good egg. You know, she's a real good sport. Anyway, it was a wonderful concert. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I stitched away whilst I watched and listened to the concert. On Thursday, everything started, and there was the service of Thanksgiving, and it was just adorable seeing the 3 Cambridge children, Prince George, Louis and Princess Charlotte, accompanying the Duchess of Cornwall and the Duchess of Cambridge in the carriage, in the procession to the church. Those children, they are absolutely adorable. And there's a picture in our newspapers of Charlotte looking in Camilla's handbag, and I just thought that was a wonderful little glimpse of the relationship that special family have. Our Queen, she did look very frail on the balcony and when she lit the first beacon, but I suppose at her age and with the loss of her husband, it's to be expected. However, I do hope the Queen has many more years ahead of her. Anyway, as everybody is saying, thank you, Mom. You are loved and appreciated. Okay, let's get on to needlework, which is why you are watching this Flosstube. This week, I didn't finish my work in progress, but I did make good progress. This is how we're looking at the moment. I particularly like this motif, and it was one that I was really looking forward to stitching, and it was very, very enjoyable. Now, I had to go back and add some of these little sort of stars almost around this motif, which I'd forgotten to do when I'd originally stitched it. So I've put in these motifs here, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. This is quite funny, actually. On the top of this lozenge shape, she's got a bird, but on the top of this one, she's got half a bird with a bird sat on top. What was this little girl thinking about? Maybe she was busy watching TV. I don't think so. Maybe she was busy talking to her friend in the classroom as she was stitching. I do intend to get some more work in today, but I will not have finished this by the time I leave to go to the States. But it won't take me long to finish when I get back. This week, I have actually been really busy. It's not that I haven't been doing anything. We've just been putting the finishing touches to the Great British Sampler Weekend, which is taking place next year. And when you put on an event, it takes a tremendous amount of organisation. It's just been unbelievable trying to bring all the elements together. But when I come back from the States, there will be an announcement about the weekend, and we hope that many of you will be joining us next year for what's going to be something that's very, very special. Okay, so a lot of my week was spent on that. Also, we've got a beautiful sampler that is going to be published quite shortly. I've had the proof back from my proofreader this week and it's gone to the printers. So when I get back from the States, I hope that the printed proof is here and that we can go to press on it. I know there's a lot of people waiting for this particular sampler to come out. We will have a release, not next week because I'm in the States, but the week after. And I'm really looking forward to sharing that with you. Okay, what else have I got to talk about? Well, this week I had some new linens come, and these linens are really new. You will not have seen this colour before. It's closest in shade to DMC 842/543, and this linen is by Tabby Cat Linen. I've fallen in love with those linens, and we're really enjoying stitching our models on them. This is the linen. It's so beautiful. There's a lovely sort of pinky tinge to it, and this linen is called pamplemousse, and I had to ask what a pamplemousse was, and it is French for a pink grapefruit. So it's Pamplemousse, pamplemousse by Tabby Cat Linen. It's so beautiful. It's so clean looking, but at the same time, it's got some warmth to it. It's not a harsh clinical colour. And that's the danger. Sometimes some of the light colours, they can be harsh and clinical. And when you stitch a sample on something like that, you don't have any almost soul or character to it, age to it. This is really beautiful. I'm not sure if Tabby Cat Linens actually have it on their website, but you can email Michelle at Mill on the Floss Samplers, and she has got this linen. You can order it. The one thing is, with Mill on the Floss, if it's not on the website, you can contact Michelle and she will dye it for you, or pull it and send it to you. I suppose I should have clarified there for those that don't know. Mill on the Floss Samplers, Michelle, she reproduces and designs samplers, but she is also Tabby Cat Linen, and Tabby Cat Linen overdyes linen, and Ada as well. And Michelle doesn't have two separate websites. Everything is on Mill on the Floss Samplers website, but there is a section for Tabby Cat Linen. And again, I must stress, if it's not on the website, you can email her for to order linen, or overdyed Ada as well. Okay, so the second colour that came is closest to DMC 372, and it's called Lycan. I have lots of lichen in my garden, living so close to the sea. Lichen grows on anything that stands still. I'm always picking it off my gates and steps. So this is lichen. It's a lovely colour. Really nice. It's overdyed and it's not grungy, but Michelle has managed to achieve some veining. Can you see that? Very clever. It's subtle. That's really nice. Like, not everybody likes heavy grunging to their fabric, but you do need to have something there, again, to give the sampler soul and age. Now, this is a sampler that Michelle stitched and gave to me in friendship. Now, when you look at this sampler, there's a lot of warmth to it, and that is coming from the linen. But when you look at this sampler, what do you see? You see the motifs. They're the first thing that come to your eye, and the linen is sitting behind to showcase the stitching. And that's why when you originally look at this piece, you don't notice the grunging to it. There's some staining, some sort of like ink spots, or, you know, it's just really clever what Michelle is doing with her linen. And I'm going to show you a piece of this linen that this sampler was stitched on. Oops, just a second. It's got one there. There we go. That sampler was stitched on this linen. Now, you wouldn't necessarily realise that this is the linen, because when there's no stitching on it, everything is very prominent and in your face. But when you stitch over this, it all fades into the background, and linen should be the background of your sampler, not the foreground. So this is called Ragamuffin, if you are interested. I think it takes a leap of faith the first time you stitch on grungy linen. It took me a long time to pluck up the courage. In my home, I always love things to look clean and new. So in my early days of stitching, I went for very clean, new looking linen, and I actually regret that now. I wish it had sort of more age and character to it. But then, you know, needlework's a journey, and my tastes and my style has developed as I've progressed along my journey. Another classic linen that Michelle does that I really, really like. I've been umming what linen I'm going to stitch my travel project on, and this is a possibility. This is wood smoke, and wood smoke we stitched Mrs. Campbell on, and again, you might not think that's sort of like grunge linen, but wood smoke actually has a vein into it. I don't know if it shows up in this light, but it's like, you know, the lichen, there is this vein into it, mottling almost. Now that's a good piece where you could probably see it. If you haven't tried over-dyed linen, try it. You might surprise yourself. Mary Wigglesworth was stitched on creme brulee, and I love creme brulee. It's a really great linen to stitch on. This is a little bit more grungier, but I actually think it makes this sampler look very authentic. We've been working out this week what linen Sarah Milthorpe is going to be stitched on. Now, I showed Sarah last week, and this is the original sampler. Now, if you look at this sampler, can you see this staining that's in the original sampler? All the way through, there is staining and mottling. Can you see that? And this is why when you use an over-dyed linen, you are making your samplers look more aged. There's a lot of staining on that sampler. It may not be apparent at first glance, but it's there. Look at all this. Anyway, it's just interesting to share that with you. I was using the beautiful Esther Blackwood to hold up Sarah Milthorpe. You'll have to forgive me, my elbow. I've got tennis elbow this week. I've had it for a few weeks, but it's really flaring up very badly. And I've actually think it's because of all the packing of charts. When you're packing charts, you're stood there for hours and you're putting them into the bag. you're sealing them, you're pressing the air out of them, and you're ripping the top strip off. And I think it's that action all the time, then lifting them over and putting them in the box. My elbow is killing me, and this is a heavy sampler. Anyway, I was using Esther Blackwood. Now, Esther Blackwood is a limited edition design for traditional stitches, and there is a stitch along running on this. The reason I've got this sampler out, and I'm going to have to put it back. Oh, my arm, elbow. I'm getting old and things are starting to fall apart. I had an email and the lady said to me, actually, do you know what? I didn't realise this, but she's actually in her late 80s. Gosh, she's amazing. She's currently working on Esther Blackwood, and she chose it because of the dog and the castle ruins on the lower right side. That motif reminds me of the castle ruins along the Rhine River in Germany, where I once lived. My family loved hiking and exploring the ruins and wondering what life was like for the people who lived there. We choose samplers because they mean something to us. And I think that's one of the special things about samplers, that they have a meaning. Like the little girls, when they stitched them, they chose verses, they chose motifs that had meaning to them. And I choose samplers for lots of different reasons. It might be because of the name, like Mary Wigglesworth. Wigglesworth, I really like that. Why do you choose a sampler? What do you look for, or what attracts you to a sampler? It's very, very interesting. I would love to know. So please leave a comment on this Flosstube telling me why you choose a sampler. For me, it's often the backstory. I love a good backstory. I really, really do. Like Mrs. Campbell. I chose Mrs. Campbell because I love the fact that it was a Mrs. Campbell rather than an every sort of name. It was something that was different. I loved her beautiful, beautiful design. I loved the colours, and I loved keep your work clean and pay attention to it. Great sampler, Mrs. Campbell. I had a question this week about Mrs. Campbell and about the outer border. Now, the outer border is 3 cross stitches, 3 parallel back stitches. Now, when you see that, you would naturally assume that it's alternating double back stitch, and that's a stitch that I love to work. I love the way that your mind has to swing back and forth between the 2 stitches and how quickly it actually works up. And alternating double back stitch looks the same on the back as it does on the front, other than that where you have cross stitches on the front, you will have back stitches behind, and where you have back stitches on the front, you'll have cross stitches behind. When I first saw Mrs. Campbell, I thought alternating back stitch, but when I looked at the back of her sampler, it wasn't alternating back stitch. It was no set stitch path. Mrs. Campbell wasn't trying to make her sampler reversible. She was trying to make her sampler as neat as possible on the back. It's quite interesting. When you see the back of a sampler, you actually have a glimpse into that person's mindset, what sort of person or character that they were. Let's have a look at the back of Sarah Millthorpe. She carried her threads. Look at the little jumble of stitches there. Overall, it's relatively neat, but Sarah could have done a lot to have improved the back of her sampler. Look at the carry that she's got there, from there over to there. These were, at the end of the day, little girls. but some little girls were better than other little girls. I think one of the samplers that I was really, really impressed with was the beautiful Sarah Reams, our Queen of the May for 2022. When you looked at the back of the sampler, the over one verse, she had not carried a single thread anywhere in that verse. She didn't even carry a thread between letters. I think that was just amazing. She really was very, very diligent. Maybe Mrs. Campbell was her teacher. Pay attention to your work and keep it clean. There we are. Okay, this week, obviously, everybody's mind's been focused on the Platinum Jubilee, and it's been really lovely to see more and more finishes coming through of God Save the Queen. I know I mentioned this last week, but I'm going to mention it again this weekend, because obviously this weekend is an important weekend, being the Jubilee. God Save the Queen. I expect when Queen Victoria had her Jubilee, it was never thought that anybody would have a longer reign. And here we have our Queen having reigned longer than anybody on the British throne. I don't think we'll see a Platinum Jubilee again. I loved Jane's finish of God Save the Queen. She did it in black. I thought that was absolutely fantastic. I don't know if you've seen that on Facebook, but it looks really, really fabulous. Just because a sampler's produced in one colour doesn't mean to say that you can't stitch it in another colour. It's your sampler. You can do whatever you like when you stitch it. I'm continuing to share with you little things that I have next to my stitching chair. Now, this little box I absolutely adore, and it was given to me by a friend, and I've always cherished this box, and I keep my red scissors in it, and it's just perfect for my red scissors because it has splashes of red. As you work around. I'm going to take these scissors with me to the Bristol weekend, so I'm going to be packing these. It's not long now till I go, Tuesday morning. Really looking forward to going, and that's going to be in my little kit that I'm taking to use at the Bristol weekend. So pretty. So that's another little thing that's by my stitching chair. I do like having all the little pretty things around me. Okay, what else? Well, a box came in the post this week, an unexpected surprise. And when I opened it, I was blown away. Honestly, some people are so clever. Inside was, I should have closed this up, hold on. Let me just do this properly and I'll show you exactly how I saw it. When I opened the box, there was this little bundle inside, and when I opened it, it was this little caddy to go over the arm of my sewing chair. So I've got my little alt bags I can put my ends in as I'm stitching. This is a pin cushion. This is a needle minder. There's a little needle case for me to put my needles, which I think is adorable. Then I've got some flaps that I can keep things in. And there's an additional flap, divided flap over the front, and then there's like a big sort of pocket here. I just thought that was just absolutely amazing. It's so beautifully made, and look at all this gorgeous hand stitching on this as well. Gosh, it's beautiful. I was so blown away, and there were some other little goodies with it, but the thing that touched me the most was the card that was inside. Stitching with Love. I hope you enjoy using this and find it as useful as I do. I most certainly will. It says, thank you for your generosity over the last year. You have been a wealth of support and knowledge for me, and I really appreciate it. As a fairly new stitcher, I have been spoilt by your wonderful charts. That's so kind. Thank you so much. It's something that we do from our heart. We really enjoy reproducing samplers and sharing our needlework journey with you. And we love it when you share your needlework journey with us. We love having emails and we love people keeping us up to date with their progress on our samplers. And we would like to think that we're always here for you if you need us. This week I had an email asking me about stitches in a sampler because somebody was considering stitching that sampler. Just wanted to point out for those that don't know, on our website, every sampler has a web page, and it's where you go to buy the sampler, whether it's a booklet or a PDF download. Now, when you look at that page, you have the main photograph of the sampler. Then underneath, you have a series of thumbnail photographs. Underneath the thumbnail photographs, there are some tab headings, and there is a heading that says Stitch Guide. Now, we think it's really important that you know what the stitches are before you buy the sampler, because you need to know what skills you need to stitch the sampler. So if you go into the stitch guide, there are all the stitch diagrams and instructions for the stitches that are used in that sampler. And the other thing that is there is a tab headed Chart Corrections. If we know there is a correction to a chart, we do list them there. So it's always a good idea that before you start a project, you check to see if there are any known chart corrections. We really aim not to have anything wrong in a chart, but it's inevitable that no matter how carefully that you check something, that from time to time there can be errors. I was listening to Diana Gabaldon once in an interview about her books, and she said it makes no difference how many times that you have something proofread and how many different people proofread and fact check one of her books. There will always be like a typo in there, a spelling error, incorrect grammar, or even maybe a fact that isn't quite right. So it's regrettable when there is an error, but we do try our best to resolve that by posting a chart correction. I had an email in the week, and the lady says that she's very interested in the Millennium frame that I use. She recently took the plunge and ordered 2 sets of sidebars and scroll bars from Omanic, which is a company that make frames. She's still waiting for them to arrive. She said, my question to you is, you likely own several sets of scroll bars. Is there a basic size that you prefer to work on that you might recommend? Also, I'm wondering if it works to order a wide set of scroll bars and still stitch much narrower stroke small pieces on it. Some people warn scroll bars become bowed out of shape due to the tension of the fabric. Could you give any advice? Okay, first of all, I have never used Omanic, so I cannot comment on their products. I love my Millennium frame. I've used it for many, many years now. The moment I got it, I was a convert. Yes, I know there is a long wait, but the long wait signifies the demand for these products, and these products are not mass produced. So I'm going to answer this question not referring to the Omanic frame, but I'm going to talk about the Millennium frame. Okay, first of all, with regards to your bars getting bowed. Okay, now, excuse me because my elbow. Right, I've put my current project on my these are the medium sidebars, just so that you can see all of it. I'm not working this on these sidebars, I'm working it on the smaller ones. When you work, you have your fabric really, really tight, because that gives you that lovely drum tension. But I would never leave my project tight. I always slacken off my work, and that's not only to stop the undue tension on these bars, but it's to stop undue tension on my linen as well. If your linen is stretched really taut for long periods of time, it's not going to do it any favours. So I always, if I get up, even to go to the loo or to answer the phone or to make a cup of coffee, I always slacken off my bars and throw a tea towel over it. You never know. You might not come back for a little while. You might only intend to pop up, say, to go to the loo, but something could happen and you could be gone ages. So that is my habit. So slacken off when you're not sat stitching. I've never had any of my bars bow, and I've had my bars a long time. Plus, where we live, because the Gulf Stream comes into the cove, this little area here has a microclimate that can get very, very humid, and also we get really bad sea mists as well. So there's a lot of change in the atmosphere in my home. But what I always do, I always lay my bars flat to store them, so they're not sort of, if my bars weren't in use, they wouldn't be leant up against the wall at an angle. They're always laid flat, and I think that sort of is a good idea with your bars. Okay, so the next question was, is there a basic size that you prefer to work on? There isn't. The size is really determined by the project. But having said that, if I was working on a very small, narrow project, I still like to have a relatively decent size bars on, because when I stitch, I actually like to sort of have my arms on my project, and because I stitch off a digital pattern on my phone, I like to have enough space to put my phone there. And even if I was stitching off a paper chart, I would like to put my paper there. So I do tend to stitch on bars that are a lot wider than the project that I'm working on. And I always like to have surplus linen, because I often experiment in the borders. If you can only buy one bar, you need to think, what's probably the maximum size project that I'm going to work on? And if you predominantly will work on, say, projects that require, 20 inches of fabric, why not go for, say, a 27-inch bar? Then that gives you a nice bit on the side to use as almost like a work table. And on a 27-inch bar, you could work a 3-inch strip. You could work banding on there. It doesn't have to take up the whole frame. If you can afford to have lots of different sizes, then what I would suggest that you do is get, maybe the very longest one that they do, so you've always got something for that big project that may come into your rotation. I think that if you went lower than 20 inches, you're probably really restricting what you can put on that, because what you have to remember is it's not just the width of the sampler, you've got to have your margins on the side as well. And we always recommend using, say, 3 inches. So if your project was 10 inches, by the time you've allowed 3 inches each side, you're up to 16 inches. And the other thing is that when you are stitching on a frame, if you have your fabric right up to the very edge, what you'll find is that you are catching the side of your fabric when you're tightening your bars. So it is always quite nice to have a little slight gap of about an inch from this is like a little bit tight. This side I've got a little bit more. Gosh, I'm rambling a bit now. I'm just wondering if I've answered that question properly. If you can only afford one set of bars, go for the largest bars that you think you can possibly use, because you can always put a narrower strip of fabric on the bars, but you can never put fabric that's wider than the bars. And the other thing is that when you buy a Millennium frame, I'm not sure what size this is, say this is 32 inches. This isn't 32 inches, it's this that's 32 inches. It's the maximum size of the fabric that you can fit on. So really you've probably got another 1.5 inches each side. So probably the bars are approximately 3 inches longer than the size. So like a 27-inch bar might be a 30, but even though it measures 30, you can only fit up to 27 inches on it. I'm definitely rambling now. I almost forgot to show you. I had this beautiful little needle minder that came in my beautiful arm caddy. Look at that. It's a beautiful jewelled bee on a honeycomb. I collect needle minders, and I particularly love bee needle minders, but really I love any sort of needle minder, and blingier the better for me. Love that. That is just so pretty. Wasn't I lucky receiving that arm caddy? It was just, it was just so lovely to open it and to find that. Really, really touched me. Okay, have I got anything else to talk about this week? I've probably rabbled on for quite some time. Sue, my friend's coming around this afternoon, and it's going to be the last time I see her until I get back from the States, so I'm going to have a little bit of a fun afternoon with her. We went to a beacon lighting ceremony at the golf club on Thursday night, and gosh, did we have fun. There was a brass band, and the band played songs going all the way back to the beginning of the Queen's reign. So we had sort of like the wartime songs, which were still popular when she came to the throne. So it was like, it's a long, long way to Tipperary, which is probably associated with World War I, but people of the Queen's generation did sing it. And then we moved with music all the way through to current times. And there were lots of children's games to play at this beacon lighting ceremony. We had Pin the Crown on the Corgi, we had Splatter Rat, all sorts of things. It was great fun. And then we had the beacon lighting ceremony, and that was it was really lovely to watch. And it's funny because you think, gosh, why did you enjoy seeing a beacon being lit? Well, when we lit our beacon, we could see the next beacon being lit further along the coast. And it was quite a distance. We wouldn't have been able to actually see the beacon, but we could see the flame coming, the light coming off the beacon. And it was really lovely to think that we were just sort of like one small link in the beacons that went all the way around the coastline of the UK. And it wasn't just the coastline, there was beacons in towns and places all throughout the UK. It would be wonderful if there was a photograph, a satellite photograph of all the beacons lit around the UK. So that was really, really lovely. And then we had basically fish and chips and mushy peas, which is a great sort of British sort of meal. It's very, very British. So we had a really great night. Friends are so important, and I think that's one of the things that I really like doing my floss tubes, is because I am just talking to my friends. It's when I hear you talk back to me through through the videos that I think I have to worry about myself. But you do talk back to me through the comments that you leave on the video. Anyway, the next video I release should be from the Attic Needleworks if I get that negative COVID test on Tuesday, so I can get on the plane, fingers crossed. I've been very careful except for Thursday night, but even then, you know, I did keep my distance as well from other people, so hopefully I will be getting on that plane. Okay, I'm rambling. Stay safe, stay well, and if God is kind, I'll see you next week from the Attic Needleworks in Mesa, Arizona. Bye-bye.